What would happen if you turned the traction control off on an 820 horsepower Ferrari 296?
With reference to the wings, they're on their way, but there are other parts that Ferrari have blocked.
The air in the Leicestershire workshop is usually full of loud tools and big dreams, but lately it has been very quiet. Matt Armstrong is looking at a Ferrari 296 GTB that looks like $1 million, but works like a heavy brick.
This was a Ferrari 296. That was until the previous owner crashed it. And then I bought it in hopes to rebuild it.
After months of hard work and finding parts from all over the world, the final warning from Ferrari has arrived. And it's not another entertainment drama for another upload, it is a total shutdown of a very expensive project. The red brand is fuming, flash news. A multi-billion-dollar Italian icon is currently staring down a YouTuber from Leicestershire. Why? It all started from a smashed, sad-looking Ferrari 296 GTB sitting in the Mediterranean sun of Cyprus. When Matt first spotted this thing, it was a wreck. We aren't talking about a fender bender or a keyed door. This was a high-performance hybrid supercar that had been through the absolute ringer. The suspension was shot. The carbon fiber bodywork was a jigsaw puzzle of expensive shards, and the high-voltage hybrid system was essentially screaming for help. For most people, this was a parts car at best. For Matt Armstrong, it was the ultimate I-can-fix-him project. Matt pulled the trigger, bought the car for a staggering amount of money, and shipped it back to the UK. This is where the honeymoon phase ended, and the cold, hard reality of Ferrari ownership, specifically salvage Ferrari ownership, began to set in. You see, Ferrari isn't like Ford or Vauxhall. You can't just walk into a local shop, buy a Haynes manual, and start bolting things together. Ferrari views their cars as pieces of rolling art, and they are notoriously protective of who touches that art and how it is displayed to the world. The real drama kicked off when Matt decided that stock wasn't good enough. Instead of just repairing the 296 GTB to its original road-going specs, he decided to create something the world had never seen: a road-legal 296 Challenge. Now, for those who aren't car nerds, the Challenge series is Ferrari's internal racing league. These cars are stripped out, fitted with aggressive aero, and built with specialized racing components that are strictly, and I mean strictly, reserved for authorized racing teams and owners who play by Ferrari's very specific, very expensive rules. Somehow, through a mix of grit, luck, and some very well-connected friends in the industry, Matt managed to source genuine 296 Challenge parts. We're talking about the aggressive front bumpers, the massive rear wing, and the specialized cooling ducts that make the car look like it belongs on the grid at Le Mans rather than a grocery store parking lot. When the videos started going live and the world saw these prohibited parts being bolted onto a salvaged road car in a private garage, the red flags started flying in Maranello. Ferrari's reaction was swift and cold. They didn't just send a polite email asking him to stop. They reportedly moved to block his access to the official parts catalog. In the world of high-end car restoration, being blacklisted from the parts desk is a death sentence for a project. If Matt needs a specific bolt, a specialized sensor, or a piece of trim that only Ferrari makes, he can't just go to the source anymore. He has to rely on the used market or gray market suppliers, which, for a brand new hybrid model like the 296, are almost non-existent. But the physical parts are actually the easy part of this headache. The real final warning territory comes down to the ones and zeros. The 296 GTB is a plug-in hybrid, PHEV. It has a twin-turbo V6, but it also has a massive battery pack and electric motors that require constant communication between every single component in the car. When the car crashed in Cyprus, the safety systems did exactly what they were designed to do. They triggered a pyro fuse and put the entire hybrid system into a permanent lockout mode. This is done to prevent the car from catching fire or electrocuting a first responder. To wake up the car, you need a digital handshake. You need to plug the car into Ferrari's proprietary diagnostic software, which connects to the servers in Italy, verifies that the car is safe, and sends a command to clear the faults. Without this, the car is literally a sculpture. It won't start, it won't move, and the screens stay black. Matt has the car looking beautiful. The paint is perfect, the challenge parts look mean, and the engine is physically ready to roar, but it's essentially a 3,500-pound paperweight. Ferrari's stance is simple. They will not authorize the software unlock unless the car is taken to an official Ferrari-certified body shop for a full, ground-up inspection. On paper, that sounds reasonable. They want to make sure a hybrid Ferrari isn't going to explode on the M1 motorway. But here's the catch. Matt did the structural work himself. He used parts, the Challenge Aero, that the car was never meant to have. An official Ferrari inspector would look at this car, see the unauthorized modifications and the unauthorized repairs, and fail it immediately. Ferrari knows this. Matt knows this. It's a classic checkmate. This is where the final warning vibe gets really heavy. Reports suggest that Ferrari has made it clear that if Matt tries to bypass their software using third-party hacking tools or jailbreaking the ECU, they could take further legal action to protect their intellectual property. They are drawing a line in the sand. They are saying, you might own the metal and the rubber, but we own the soul of the car, the software, and we aren't giving it back to you. The tension is very obvious in every video Matt posts. You can see the frustration in his eyes when he talks about the red brand. He's spent hundreds of thousands of pounds, thousands of hours of labor, and he's built something that thousands of fans think is the coolest Ferrari on the planet. But to the suits in Italy, he's a rogue element. He's someone who is diluting the brand by showing that a guy in a shed can do what their multi-million-dollar service centers do. The standoff has turned into a massive debate online. On one side, you have the Ferrari purists, who think Matt is ruining a masterpiece, and that Ferrari has every right to protect their tech. On the other side, you have the right-to-repair army, who thinks it's disgusting that a company can tell you what to do with a product you paid for. It's a clash of two different worlds. The old-school, gate-kept luxury of European car culture versus the new-school, transparent, DIY world of YouTube. Right now, the car is sitting in the corner of the shop, looking aggressive and fast, but completely silent. The warning has been dropped, the parts have been cut off, and the digital gates are locked tight. Matt is effectively banned from finishing his masterpiece the official way, and the unofficial way is getting riskier by the day. It's a high-stakes game of chicken, and so far, the prancing horse isn't the one flinching. Now, what happens when the most powerful car company in the world tries to cancel a guy who makes his living by doing the impossible? The blacklist. In the world of high-end car manufacturing, there is an unwritten rule. You play by the manufacturer's book, or you don't play at all. Matt Armstrong didn't just break the book, he threw it out the window and replaced it with a YouTube camera. Ferrari's final warning wasn't a dramatic wax-sealed letter delivered by a man in a suit. Instead, it was a slow digital strangulation that began at the parts desk. For a while, Matt's local Ferrari dealership was surprisingly helpful, selling him the sensors, small hardware, and mechanical bits he needed for the initial repairs. But the moment he tried to source genuine 296 Challenge components, the hardcore, track-only bodywork that Ferrari usually guards like the crown jewels, everything changed. Suddenly, the orders stopped. Matt was told that these specific race-spec parts were now restricted and required a VIN that matched a registered Challenge race car. For months, he was met with silence or told the parts were coming tomorrow. But tomorrow never came. This wasn't just a supply chain issue, it was a deliberate choice by Ferrari to protect their racing intellectual property from being used on a salvaged road car. By implementing these VIN-based locks, Ferrari effectively cut off Matt's ability to finish the car's aesthetic transformation, leaving him with a project that was visually striking but legally and mechanically incomplete. It was a classic corporate ghosting designed to starve the project of the very parts that would make it famous. But the physical parts were only half the battle. The real final warning territory comes down to the ones and zeros inside the car's brain. The 296 GTB is a plug-in hybrid, PHEV that relies on a constant digital handshake between its twin-turbo V6 and its high-voltage battery system. When the car crashed in Cyprus, the safety systems triggered a hybrid system failure lockout. This is a software kill switch designed to prevent the car from catching fire or electrocuting someone after an impact. To wake up the car, you need Ferrari's proprietary diagnostic software to clear the faults, a tool that no independent shop or YouTuber is allowed to possess. Ferrari made it clear they would not authorize this digital handshake unless the car was sent to an official, Ferrari-approved body shop for a full ground-up inspection. Here is why that was a final warning in disguise. It was a compliance trap. Because Matt had already performed structural work himself and was attempting to install unauthorized racing aero, the car would almost certainly fail an official Ferrari inspection. Furthermore, Ferrari won't even begin to scan a car that isn't 100% complete with all its original sensors and safety modules present. Matt even spent nearly £18,000 on a new high-voltage battery just to try and trick the system, only for the car to scream "battery thermal runaway" at him. Ferrari knows that if they hold the software keys, they hold the power. By refusing to assist with the digital reset, they are essentially telling Matt that while he may own the metal and the rubber, they own the soul of the car, and they aren't ready to hand over the keys to a Frankenstein build. This standoff has turned into a massive proxy war for the right to repair movement. Ferrari argues that a DIY repair on an 830-horsepower hybrid system is a massive liability and safety risk. They don't want the brand associated with a car that could potentially fail on a public road. However, for Matt and his millions of fans, this feels like pure gatekeeping. With new EU right-to-repair laws looming in July 2026, Ferrari's refusal to sell parts or provide software access could actually land them in a legal nightmare. This isn't just about one car anymore, it's about whether a person who buys a vehicle truly owns it or if they are just a temporary custodian under the manufacturer's thumb. Right now, the 296 GTB sits in the workshop as a beautiful, aggressive monster that is currently a prisoner of its own code. With the Ferrari project stuck in a digital cage, can Matt find a loophole, or will he have to look toward a different supercar to keep his channel from stalling? From Maranello to Molsheim. When you are staring at a locked-down Ferrari that refuses to even recognize your existence, you have two choices: pack up and go home, or find a bigger mountain to climb. Matt chose the latter. While the 296 GTB sat in the corner of the workshop gathering dust and legal red tape, he pivoted to a project that made the Ferrari standoff look like child's play: the rebuild of a $4 million Bugatti Chiron Pur Sport. This wasn't just another salvage. It was a deliberate challenge to the idea that some cars are too special to be fixed by anyone other than the factory. The Bugatti project is a fascinating contrast to the Ferrari saga because it involves the same core problem: manufacturer control, but with a very different personality at the helm. Unlike the faceless corporate wall of Ferrari, Bugatti is led by Mehdi Rimac, a man who built his own electric supercar empire from a garage. However, even with a car guy in charge, the initial stance from the manufacturer was just as cold. Bugatti blacklisted the car's VIN, refused to sell parts, and insisted that the Chiron could only be safely repaired at one of two authorized facilities in the entire world. They claimed that splitting the car's chassis, a requirement to access the damaged transmission, required proprietary tools and factory expertise that Matt simply didn't have. Matt's response was peak YouTube engineering. Instead of using proprietary Bugatti jigs, he and his father used a standard two-post lift and the wheeled base from a workshop garbage can to separate the front and rear sections of the car. It was a move that went viral instantly, proving that while these cars are masterpieces of engineering, they are still just machines held together by bolts. The sight of a multi-million-dollar hypercar being split in half with a trash can became a powerful symbol for the right-to-repair movement. What makes this pivot so riveting is the public back and forth it sparked. Mehdi Rimac himself eventually weighed in, clarifying Bugatti's position on social media. While he expressed respect for the hustle, He raised genuine safety concerns regarding the complexity of the repairs, specifically pointing out that the car essentially needed to be split in half and worked on by factory-qualified technicians. This wasn't just corporate gatekeeping, it was a debate about the structural integrity of a vehicle designed to reach 260 miles per hour. Despite the warnings, Matt pressed forward. He discovered that the engine/gearbox mount had fractured, a part designed to fail in a crash to protect the rest of the car. While Bugatti initially refused to help, the project eventually saw a breakthrough. After Matt's friend and the car's owner, Alex Gonzalez, threatened to 3D print the necessary components, Bugatti reportedly lifted the parts blacklist and offered more reasonable repair estimates. The Bugatti has since roared back to life, fitted with a custom Valvetronic exhaust that likely would have given the original engineers a heart attack. This project hasn't just kept the channel alive during the Ferrari blockade, it has redefined Matt's brand. He is no longer just the guy who fixes crashed BMWs, he is the guy who successfully challenged the entire automotive establishment. The success of the Bugatti build has fueled an even more aggressive international expansion for 2026. With over 6.4 million subscribers watching his every move, Matt has transitioned from a local builder to a global automotive icon. By early 2026, Matt's reach has expanded far beyond his UK workshop. He has been spotted filming in Dubai, the global capital of exotic salvage, and is working on multiple high-stakes projects that span across continents. These international trips are a strategic workaround for the parts blocks he faces in Europe. By moving his operations to regions with different salvage laws and more accessible parts markets, he is ensuring that even if Ferrari keeps the gates locked in Maranello, the Armstrong empire keeps growing. He is currently managing a collection worth over £2 million, where every single vehicle, from a flooded Rolls-Royce Cullinan to a crashed Porsche GT3 RS, serves as a trophy of a battle won against the odds, the evolution of an expert. Matt Armstrong didn't wake up one day with a £1 million workshop and a fleet of supercars. His journey started on 2 wheels, not 4. Before the YouTube fame, Matt was a professional BMX rider, competing internationally and pushing his body to its absolute limit. It was during a qualification run at the BMX World Championships in Germany that his life took a massive, unexpected detour. Attempting a high-stakes 720 tail whip, Matt dislocated his shoulder so badly it became a chronic, career-ending injury. Forced to retire from the sport he loved, he found himself at a crossroads with a lot of mechanical curiosity and very little money. The shift from bikes to cars was born out of pure necessity. Growing up, Matt had spent countless hours watching his father, Tony Armstrong, work in garages, absorbing the fundamentals of car repair through a sort of blue-collar osmosis. When his professional riding days ended, Matt didn't have a safety net. He turned to flipping houses and working a string of exhausting jobs, everything from delivering food to bartending and working 7 days a week in an Indian restaurant just to fund his growing obsession with petrol head culture. The pivotal moment for his YouTube channel didn't involve a Lamborghini or a Bugatti. It involved a modest Audi TT that belonged to his girlfriend, Hannah. After the car was badly damaged in a crash, Matt bought the salvage from the insurance company for just £600. He documented the entire rebuild process, and the internet was instantly hooked. It wasn't just about the car. It was about the authenticity of a guy learning on the fly, making massive mistakes, and refusing to give up on a written-off dream. This Audi TT project set the template for everything that followed. Matt realized there was a massive untapped audience for the impossible fix. While other car YouTubers were doing wrap and wheel videos or simply buying new supercars to show off, Matt was out there in the freezing cold with a welder, straightening subframes and proving that totaled is often just a matter of opinion. His real breakthrough into the global mainstream came during the COVID-19 pandemic when he purchased a totaled Bentley Continental GT for roughly £13,000. This was the project that proved he could handle high-end luxury, and it secured his first major high-profile sponsorships. The Bentley build was a masterclass in the salvage narrative. He took a car that Bentley themselves had declared a nightmare with over 100 documented mechanical issues, and turned it into something that could successfully drive all the way to Monaco. What makes Matt's career trajectory so unique is the family element that grounds every video. His father, Tony, has become a fan-favorite character in the series, providing the grounded, expert mechanical wisdom that balances Matt's sometimes chaotic, high-speed ambition. The dynamic between them, the veteran mechanic who spent his life in the trade and the son who is reinventing the trade for the digital age, adds a layer of heart to the high-octane drama. Whether they are rebuilding a Ferrari F430 as a gift to each other or trying to figure out why a modern hybrid won't start, their relationship reminds the audience that at the end of the day, these are just two guys in a shed trying to make something work. By early 2026, Matt's channel has grown into a multi-platform empire with over 6.4 million subscribers. He has transitioned from a self-taught mechanic fixing 600-pound hatchbacks to a global influencer who can actually shift the market value of salvage supercars just by bidding on them at auction. He has successfully navigated the transition from vlogger to authority, managing a personal car collection worth millions, while simultaneously running a massive merchandise operation and a secondary channel dedicated to home improvements. He isn't just a YouTuber anymore, he is the face of a DIY revolution. Every time he successfully fires up a car that a manufacturer said should be scrapped, he proves that his BMX injury wasn't an end, but the beginning of a much larger, much louder story. He is currently terrifying the biggest manufacturers in the world because he is showing their customers that the magic of a supercar is actually just nuts, bolts, and a refusal to take no for an answer. As his influence grows, the stakes have shifted from simply fixing a car to challenging a system. The Ferrari 296 GTB project is the ultimate test of this new status. It's no longer about whether Matt can weld a chassis, it's about whether a person who spends hundreds of thousands of pounds on a product is allowed to repair it without a corporate hall pass. Matt Armstrong has spent the last decade building a reputation for doing the impossible. And while Ferrari might have the lawyers and the software locks, they are fighting a man who built a global empire starting with a 600-pound wreck and a broken shoulder. It wasn't just Bentleys and Audis. Matt has developed a habit of picking up the pieces of cars that even the world's most famous celebrities have thrown away. Hall of Fame. The greatest hits. If you ever wanted proof that one man's trash is another man's treasure, you only have to look at Matt Armstrong's garage. By early 2026, Matt's Hall of Fame has become a graveyard-turned-sanctuary for some of the world's most famous and expensive machinery. While most people see a write-off as the end of a car's story, Matt sees a challenge that is usually worth millions in both views and market value. His ability to pick up the literal pieces of a high-profile disaster and turn them back into road-legal trophies is exactly why his 6.4 million subscribers keep hitting the notification bell. The absolute crown jewel of his recent builds, and perhaps the most famous car in the UK right now, is Marcus Rashford's Rolls-Royce Wraith. This wasn't just any Rolls, it was a custom Mansory black badge Wraith that the Manchester United star had originally paid roughly £700,000 for. After Rashford famously crashed it in late 2023, the car was sent to a salvage auction where it sat, looking absolutely mangled. Matt stepped in and bought the wreck for £184,000. A massive gamble considering it was essentially a high-tech brick with a non-starting engine and a body kit made of specialized forged carbon fiber. The rebuild of the Rashford Rolls was a masterclass in persistence. For weeks, the car refused to start, leaving Matt and his father Tony chasing electrical ghosts in a V12 labyrinth. They eventually had to buy an entire donor Rolls-Royce just to harvest the parts they needed, a move that pushed the total project cost over £324,000. But the result was undeniable. When Matt finally drove the finished, wide-bodied beast back to the Mansory factory in Germany, it wasn't just a car repair, it was a statement. He had successfully rebuilt a car that the insurance company and the manufacturer had basically given up on. But Matt doesn't just fix cars for football stars, he also fixes them for his fellow creators. One of his most ambitious projects involved the Porsche 911 GT3 RS, previously owned by American YouTuber Adam LZ. This particular Porsche hadn't just been crashed, it had been fully submerged in water. Rebuilding a flooded modern Porsche is widely considered a fool's errand because the salt and silt destroy every single electronic sensor and wire in the vehicle. Matt bought the car blind from a US auction, flew to Florida, and began a from-scratch rebuild that involved replacing the entire front tub of the car. The technicality of the GT3 RS build was staggering. Because Porsche uses a mix of aluminum and steel in their chassis, Matt couldn't just weld it back together like an old Ford. He had to use structural rivets and specialized bonding agents, effectively remanufacturing the front end of the car to factory standards. By the time he was done, he had turned a swimming Porsche into a Ruby Star red masterpiece that looked and performed like it had just rolled off the line in Stuttgart. It was a project that earned him massive respect in the global car community, proving that his skills had evolved far beyond basic shade tree mechanics. Then there is the car that many fans consider the soul of the channel, the Maserati Gran Turismo. This was one of Matt's earlier entries into the world of exotic wide-body builds. He took the cheapest Maserati he could find, a car notorious for being a mechanical nightmare, and fitted it with the only genuine Liberty Walk kit in the UK. This build was pure form over function at first, with air suspension that could drop the car to the floor and custom wheels so wide they required bespoke engineering. While it didn't have the legal drama of the Ferrari or the hypercar stakes of the Bugatti, the Maserati defined Matt's signature style: aggressive, unapologetic, and built with a level of detail that puts most professional custom shops to shame. As we look at his collection in 2026, which now includes everything from a flooded Rolls-Royce Cullinan, which he's vowed to keep forever, to a Lamborghini Urus that his dad famously drove off a small cliff during filming, it's clear that Matt isn't just fixing cars anymore. He's building a legacy. These cars are trophies of his battles against insurance companies, software lockouts, and the idea that once a car is broken, it's dead. Every best salvage in his Hall of Fame is a reminder that with enough grit, a decent set of tools, and a refusal to listen to the word impossible, you can bring almost anything back to life. But even with a garage full of success stories, the question remains, will the 296 GTB be the one car that finally beats him? 296 ahead. So, where does this leave us in the spring of 2026? The Ferrari 296 GTB is currently the most beautiful paperweight in England. It sits in the workshop as a symbol of the ultimate standoff between a creator and a corporation. Ferrari has the software keys, the parts blockade is in full effect, and the final warning has been delivered. On paper, Matt has lost. He has a car that looks like $1 million, but cannot legally or mechanically move under its own power. With the right to repair laws gaining massive traction in the EU and the UK this year, the legal landscape is shifting in his favor. There is a growing movement that argues manufacturers cannot legally brick a product that a consumer has paid for. If Matt can hold out long enough, or find a way to jailbreak the hybrid system without triggering a massive lawsuit, he might just have the last laugh. Armstrong has shown the world that the magic of Maranello is just code and carbon fiber, and that no matter how many warnings a company drops, they can't stop the DIY spirit. The 296 isn't just a car anymore, it's a revolution on wheels. If you enjoyed this video, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update.